have a sharp pencil. Today I thought we could kind of have some fun. Got my little artboard here. If you don't have an artboard, you can use a piece of paper about this size. That's just fine too. I thought we'd do something maybe a little kind of cartoony, kind of a little bit lightweight, and just sort of have some fun with some of the things we've done before. So watercolor, if you have them, I hope. If you don't, oh my goodness, my dogs are not behaving themselves very well. Guys, never dull. If you don't have watercolors, this is something you could kind of follow along with crayons or oil pastels, or just draw along with a pencil and use some of our techniques to fill things in, or if you have colored pencils. I'm Miss Therese. This is art with apparently a couple of dogs and Miss Therese. Let's get started. I've got my watercolors, a little bit of water in my tuna fish can, my paper towel to keep my brush nice and clean and to kind of test colors with. And so I'm going to start with, again, you could use, if you don't have an artboard, you could use a small piece of paper like this, or if you want to work bigger, and we're going to do that in some of the next videos, if you want to work bigger, that's something you can do too. Sometimes I like working small. I'm going to put a border here. I'm a little bit of a nut about a border, keeping the heel of my hand down and just pulling, and moving my board around. Just for me, it's a little bit easier to control where my line goes. So there's that. And this is just going to be kind of fun. It's going to be like a little bit of, just a little bit of light stuff today. So I'm going to bring a line, let's see, maybe come up about around a third of the way up the page. And I'm going to put a line in like that. And again, you can stop this video at any time. And we've drawn these before, but I just thought it would be kind of fun to do something just kind of goofy with them. So we're going to do, I think you're going to figure this out. We're going to do a little oval like that, and a little oval like this, and another little oval like that. And notice I've got them kind of tilted, sort of different ways. And then let's do like a little U shape here, and another little U shape here. And that U shape's going to go behind this shape. And then another little U shape here. And then I'm going to do sort of a little kind of V there with a little curve to it. And I think I'm pretty sure, do a little circle there with a dot in the middle, a little circle here. I think you know what these are. But I'm going to have them doing something kind of fun. I'm going to move the pupils and the eyeballs so they kind of look like they're looking somewhere like that. And a little curve here like that. That, and then just a little, kind of like a W with an extra line on it. That can be their little talons holding on to the branch. Doesn't have to be perfect. And some of those sort of wedge-shaped tails. Tails are pretty interesting on birds. They're kind of like rudders. If they didn't have tails, I'm going to just indicate some feathers here. If they didn't have tails, they wouldn't be able to steer very well. I mean, they can steer with their wings, but tails are pretty important for steering or slowing down. I might have some kind of fun with that, maybe emphasize those wings a little bit more. So now I've got, oh, let's see, I better put a little top on that. Give their head a little bit of a top. So I've got that. Maybe a few little, this is just going to be kind of more like a little something you could put on your desk. You could do some more branches with leaves if you wanted. In fact, let's do that. Let's have another one behind. I'm going to put this branch behind like this. Boy, my dogs are busy today. At least they haven't bumped the table yet. Sometimes they'll do that when I'm painting, and then I have a little extra line that I don't know what I want to do with, but I usually figure out something. I'm going to put, might get a little complicated here. I'm going to have another little branch coming in from here. Maybe a branch that's got a branch growing out of it. I'll bet you that you are coming up with your own ideas with this. So that's just a basic little outline of everything. And I'll put my pencil away, grab my brush, put a little bit of water on it. Now, this is going to be kind of important with this picture, is that you don't have a lot of water on your brush. So it's always kind of helpful. Hey guys, pipe down. It's always kind of helpful to kind of maybe test that out to begin with. So I'm thinking, well, what colors could I do my owls? I might have some fun here and do my owls an unexpected color. So I'm going to grab a little bit of this blue, put it in my mixing tray. And I've still kept that old paint there because, gosh, I can always use that for something. Maybe test this out a little bit here. I think that's about what I want. And so there's not too much paint on this. I'm going to do very carefully my wing there, little wing there. And then with the same, I'm thinking, well, gosh, maybe I'll do a little design with that same color on this owl's chest. So the technique I'm kind of doing here is I loaded my brush up with paint, but I'm using this one load of paint to do a couple of different things on my picture. Let's see, maybe I will finish. And again, you're going to want to, see when you don't have too much water on your brush like this, you've got a lot of control on that. And you don't necessarily have to color right up to the line. You can kind of just bring it in there and very gently. I think it's so much fun to really get to that point where you've really got a lot of control over your brush. So I've used that color, but I'm going to save that because I might mix that with something. Come back in, get a little bit of water, not too much. Kind of bring that off there. Notice too, when I'm picking up color to work with, I don't mash my brush down. I just kind of have that brush. Now this one, notice here, I don't know if you can see this. This is an older brush and it's starting to split. So I might see if I've got another brush. Let's see, that might not be splitting. I don't have a lot of brushes, just a couple. And but if you take care of them, and these are not expensive brushes, these are just the ones that kind of came with the watercolor set. But I find that they're actually pretty precise. So I'm going to come back in here and grab a little bit more. And again, I'm not mashing my brush. I am just letting that brush kind of dance around on the paint as I'm picking it up, and then dance around on my board. So I've got a little bit of kind of a fun green that I've mixed there. I might come back in, maybe make that green a little bit darker, like that, a little bit more green, like that. You can kind of see I'm just sort of kind of mixing the colors a little bit, not necessarily being super precise, but just going, gosh, well, what if I add a little bit more there and a little bit there? And let's see, this little owl here, I might see how tiny the dots I could make with my brush are. I'm sure you guys can hear my dogs in the background. It's cold outside, so I let them inside while I'm working. And it's just kind of fun to have them around. So look at how tiny I made those dots just by barely touching the tip of that paintbrush down. Now let's see, maybe, let's see, I'm thinking a little bit more blues, maybe a little bit of purpley blue on that one. This one, I might do a different shape of lines, just doing a kind of a small one like this. And actually the fun part about this project is just practicing with your brush. I might grab a little bit more of that. You could do brighter colors. I'm just sort of having fun with these kind of more gentler colors. And I'm going to grab a little bit of this. It's just kind of fun to kind of mix and see what comes up. And you'll notice that while I'm mixing, this is kind of important, but while I'm mixing, I'm not bringing a whole bunch of water into here. And I may clean this all off today after I'm done, but I still have a lot of paint that's kind of fun that I can kind of pick up and use. And especially, you know, if I'm not doing a really big picture. Again, just a tiny, tiny touch with things like this. And maybe I'll add a little bit at the base of those tails, like that, just to kind of add a little bit of interest. And, hi there, Brisket. You might have seen my dog in the videos earlier, but she is so big, there's no way I can put her on my lap anymore. And I'm going to come back in and maybe color, just kind of put a little bit of color in here. And see, just again, I'm just barely touching my brush. And maybe, what if I did a few more little like that? There's no right or wrong way to do this. It's just kind of fun to start filling the spaces in with some of the colors. And I especially like using my leftover colors here. And again, notice I'm pretty much keeping these as clean as I can and doing most of my work of mixing over there. I'm going to come back in and do this here. If you wind up kind of going over the lines, that's fine. I never stay in the lines very much anyway. That is something that you don't need to do. And let's see. I am feeling a little bit like spring, so I think I'm going to do those leaves. With green. And remember, my watercolors, this set of watercolors didn't come with green, so I got to use my yellows and the blues to make green. If your watercolor set has green, you can always add, when you're mixing it, you can always add a little more yellow to it to lighten it, or a little blue to like darken it, and just kind of experiment to see, you know, how many different kinds of green you can make. That would be a good afternoon project, would just to sit down with your watercolors, get a piece of paper, just scrap paper, and see how many different kinds of green you could make, different kinds of orange, different kinds of blue. And, well, there you go. Look at that little thing. Now here, I'm gonna have my branch gray. Sometimes I like to make my branch gray. You could make it blue or purple. And again, I'm just doing really light watercolor here. So you can kind of see the pencil kind of coming through it. There. Now I've got a lot of kind of leftover space here, and what I could do, there's a couple things I could do here, and I've had students do this, and this is not my idea, this is always the idea of some of my students, but I've had some of my students, and you know who you are, that like to paint, and I'm doing the same thing here. I'm keeping my palm, or the heel of my hand down, and just pulling my brush. They like to paint that border. So I'm going to take that idea and I'm going to paint that border so it almost looks like I have a frame. And again, might need a little more water here. Grab a little more of that leftover paint. and just pull it towards you. If you have a better way to do this, you don't have to do it my way. I always love it when somebody comes up with an idea, goes, hey, have you thought of doing it this way? And I go, oh my gosh, I didn't. And now, thank you so much for showing me. That's the fun part about drawing and painting, is that you're always learning something. All right. A little more of that there. I don't know if you're watching how I kind of do my techniques. I don't really have a method. I just sort of kind of get in there and make it happen. So we've got that. But that's still a little bit plain for me right now. You could leave it just like that. That's kind of fun. But I was thinking, I really like that green. And I was thinking of kind of echoing some of the stuff that's going on inside those owls. So, and again, this is all really light with hardly any. My dog just bumped the table. Knew that was going to happen, but that's all right. I really didn't use hardly any paint, but just a lot of my leftover paint for this. And again, my brush is kind of losing its point, so I'm going to put it in the water, kind of see if I can bring that point back. I might get a little paint on my fingers, but that's okay. It's watercolor, it's going to wash off. And just kind of bring this through here. Made that background look a little bit interesting, but you could have left it, absolutely left it plain. That would be okay too. So I'm washing my brush off, making that point happen, putting it back in where those little brush heads are right up there in the air, and grabbing a pencil and putting a little tiny initial here and the year. And there's just kind of a fun little kind of cartoony owl thing. I could come back in with my pencil and kind of darken those pupils if I wanted. Ooh, I kind of like that. And then I could also take my pencil and darken a little bit here, there, maybe the tips of leaves if you want. We've done this before. I always kind of like putting little sort of dark points on things because it kind of livens them up a little bit, draws your eye towards that. And just kind of adds a little something to your picture. You don't have to do it on all the leaves or the whole part of the owl. But like I say, when you kind of emphasize a few little parts of lines, it can kind of bring things out. Today we just had a little bit of fun doing some kind of cartoony owls with sort of lightweight watercolors and practice some kind of precision brushwork. And I hope that you have some time to kind of experiment with your watercolors and enjoy today's lesson, and I look forward to seeing you next time.